we still have 6-7 minutes. You're all welcome to put questions, comments, whatever. Please.
Maybe one question to Anton Berger.
Yes,
So,
please try to do it.
The problem with the 1917 was always that it sort of morphs as an event into a period of the Soviet history. And it's, as this panel has shown, it's very difficult to disentangle the event from the structures of the Soviet history. So, I mean, this comment basically is a call to think about the vicissitudes, the different directions that the Soviet history that ensued after the revolution pursued. And a particular question is that I was wondering if you would like to compare what you said on the People's Republic of China, sort of accommodation to the post-89 reality, to the period of the new economic policy in the Soviet Union.
Yes, well, one thing about the Asian imitators of Russian Revolution, you know, the best imitators, the best imitations of Rolex watches are produced in China. The best imitation of Gucci products are produced in China. So in many ways, this ability to imitate certain features of the Russian Revolution are present in Asia. I view the Chinese version of communism, combined with market economy, combined with the gross economic inequality, combined with a large share of private capitalism, domestic and foreign. The foreign did not exist in the new economic policy. Well, to a certain extent. So I view them as in a way, successors of the new economic policy in the Soviet Union and Soviet Russia in 1920s. What happened there that the new economic policy gave very positive economic results, certainly increased the production of, particularly of foodstuff and many other things. But then the inequality, the economic inequality, and the appearance of a new elite, private capitalists, scared the communist elite, scared. And that's why the new economic policy was abandoned. And I view it as one of the fatal errors of Russian Bolsheviks. There are several other errors. But this one, I think, is a capital error, which shows or points to the reasons why the Chinese communists are economically and politically successful. Because they abandoned a Marxian dogma derived from the capital. A dogma that equates market economy and develop the functioning of market mechanisms with capitalism. Actually, the market exists in all formations, from slavery on. And the idea that one could establish the dictatorship of proletariat, a classless society, means that one has to stop, has to eliminate the market as a mechanism for regulating economic life. And I think that that was the basic mistake of Russian Bolsheviks, which then was transmitted to other, particularly East European Bolsheviks, to East European communists, also during the first almost 10 years of the existence of Yugoslavia. The Yugoslav communists started slowly distancing themselves from that dogma, with worker self-management and so on. So they moved in the direction of a semi-market economy. But in my view, they have not abandoned that dogma radically as the Chinese. And that is one of the reasons of the one of the reasons of the breakup of Yugoslavia. The second reason is related also to the Soviet Czar, and that is the very uncritical imitation of the Soviet model of ethnofederalism. That model proved to be a failure in the Soviet Union itself. The model. To what extent it's a Russian model, it's not a Russian model, it's an Austro-Hungarian model, actually brought by Stalin from Vienna. But the imposition of a uniform system of ethnofederalism and designating units, artificially created units, naming them after a people or nation which is a majority, or, for instance, such a nonsense as having a Jewish republic with no Jews practically in that. So that there are some inconsistencies in the Soviet system of ethnofederalism. What was wrong with the Yugoslav communists? They were unaware, they did not know and did not study the example of successful federal solutions, like Swiss federal solution. They very uncritically copied the Soviet system. And the first Yugoslav constitution in 1946 was a translation of the Stalin constitution. And they imposed this system. They did not increase or did not include into the system a sufficient flexibility. And because of the inertia and because of the inflexibility of the authoritarian one-party system, that model was not adapted sufficiently to the Yugoslav reality. For the same reason why this system was not adapted in the Soviet Union to follow the development, social and cultural and other developments in particularly non-Russian republics. And that is the main reason, I think, the combination of the dogma, economic dogma, of the inappropriate system of federalism, and grossly excessive superpower ambitions by the Soviet Union. These are the three main reasons of the failure of the Soviet Union. Well, Gaidar explained some of them on the economic side.
We can explain this later during the coffee break. Any more questions, or shall we finish with the international panel? And after 20 minutes break, we'll continue in Slovenian language with the national panel. My colleague Yuri Berošek is taking over. Thank you very much. Hvala lepa.